Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session called Teaching the Greatest Hits with Google Workspace. Thank you for joining us for our Elementary Academic Technology Summer Summit. We are so glad that you are here to learn and think about ideas and how to effectively implement these for the upcoming school year. Hi, I'm Gilbert Beretta, and I am one of the elementary academic technology coaches. Here's a little bit about myself. I've been in Northside for 9 years, 7 years as a classroom teacher at Passmore, where I taught kinder, first, and fourth grade. Then I moved on for 2 years as the writing academic support teacher at John Glenn Elementary. You can follow us both on Twitter. Here are our Twitter handles. So we can connect and collaborate and both build our professional learning network. Also, be sure to tweet out your experience today using the hashtag NISD Summit. I'm going to go over our learning goals, our mission and vision, and norms. Our learning goals. What am I learning today? How to increase student learning, how to support students in learning content and skills, how to support students in being accountable for their learning. Why am I learning it? To increase student learning of grade level content and skills while incorporating Google applications. How will I know that I've learned it? I can apply the skills and knowledge learned today and utilize it in my classroom. Our mission and vision in Northside. Our mission is transform the learning experience for students. Our vision is that every day, every student grows in confidence, curiosity, and capability. Today's norms is actively listen and participate, take care of yourself, and what is learned here leaves here. Today I would love for you to walk away from today's session learning how to increase student learning with the knowledge and tools to effectively implement John Hattie's and Robert Marzano's 10 strategies to help students learn concepts and skills using Google Workspace. You might be thinking, what are the greatest hits? The greatest hits are 10 instructional practices that reliably increase student learning whenever they are applied. They emerge from the findings of tens of thousands of studies that has worked in classrooms across the world. John Hattie and Robert Marzano have synthesized these studies and ranked hundreds of teaching strategies by the contributions they make to student learning. These hits sit at the top of these rankings. Why should we use them? The hits will have the strongest impact on student learning when used as part of an ongoing improvement cycle embedded in professional learning communities. You might have heard of effect sizes. So what are they? Effect size is a measure of the contribution an education intervention makes to student learning. It allows us to move beyond questions about whether an intervention worked or not, to questions about how well an intervention worked in varying contexts. This evidence supports a more scientific and rigorous approach to building professional knowledge. Effect size is an important tool for reporting and interpreting the effectiveness of a specific teaching practice and intervention.
So I'm going to go over what each one is, the top 10 greatest hits. What HITS stands for, the acronym is High Impact Teaching Strategies. And this QR code I sent in the email, it's the, I'll pause it. If you need to take notes, I even sent it in the email, but this is going to take you to a handout that's going to look like this. And here you could just use the Jamboard and use stickies and just jot down ideas, any notes that you want to take as I go over each one. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. And all it's going to do is just make a copy and it'll be added in your drive. All right, so we're going to dive into what these teaching strategies are that have the highest impact. So here are some examples. All right, so number one is going to be setting goals. So setting goals is based on student needs that helps a teacher plan and sequence appropriate activities for students. Making these goals explicit to students help them understand what knowledge, and skills they are working on. So if you notice at the beginning of our presentation, I had learning targets, I had some vision, particularly for this meeting, but for in a classroom setting, this was made in Jamboard. So I am definitely going to make sure my students know exactly what their learning targets, what are our objectives. And then we have the assignment. So students know exactly what the assignment is going to look like in Schoology. Um, when we're moving from, you know, what I do, you do, we do kind of thing. And then I thought for something for the lower grades, we have some welcome tasks. So then it's going to be, I'm going to use, this is what I want during writer's workshop. I want a pencil, you can eat your paper, your camera on, and a smile. So this is just something that lets students know exactly what you're going to be teaching them. And then over here, we have goal setting. This is also made in Jamboard, and I also put it in slides as well, but this is just for students to think about what are some goals that I want to accomplish in reading and writing, phonics, math, science, and social studies to get me to where I need to be. And it's so important when we're having them take ownership in what they're learning. And so in here, students will just, I want to add, 10 more new sight words into my toolbox that I already want to learn and know. So those are some goals that students can make for themselves. And then I love to use interest surveys when I was in the classroom. And I liked how it's tied to reading. You really get to know your students. And a lot of this and a lot of these strategies is really getting to know who your students are, their strengths, their weaknesses. And so when you're doing these interest surveys, you get to really know them as a person. And so I love to just find out what's current out there. As teachers, we don't know the latest. Sometimes we don't know the latest stuff or the latest show or the latest toy. And so this gives us a big insight. So when I'm able to sit down and reflect, when I'm doing character traits in my, whole group reading lesson and I see some faces that they're just not getting it, I can tie it into something that they're interested in, some show they saw or some movie that just came out that had that sort of conflict in there, or they overcome that character trait or anything that I'm teaching and reading. The second one is structuring lessons. So structuring lessons or a series of lessons assists you as the teacher to scaffold new knowledge and skills. So you plan ways to maximize student engagement, increase time on task, and review student progress. This helps to improve classroom management as students know what to expect and what is expected of them. So here is Catlin Tucker. She is using a 5E model on how to for her instruction when she's planning. So she's talking about what it looks like when she's in the engage part, what kind of activities am I going to use for the brainstorming? What questions am I going to ask? And you'll notice during this presentation that a lot of these have connections to one another. Then you have what tools can I use? So she's attaching the tool to Padlet, or she's attaching it to Jamboard or Mentimeter. So this is a great resource that you'll get a little bit later. And then she has a planning sheet on what she's going to insert her objectives and then what tasks she really wants students to use. And she also has videos on her website that really explain each one. And then this is something that you'll also see when we get to feedback and that strategy, but this is just setting goals. It kind of gives you a glimpse of your classroom. So after I'm teaching a lesson, I'm making my rounds either in person or on Zoom. And I really want to know, where are my students? Are they at the master stage? Or are they an expert? So then when we come back tomorrow, I have a really better understanding if this learning really sticked, or if I need to go back and troubleshoot something. So this is another great way to, and you'll see it again in feedback, another way to really assess where your kids are at. The next one is explicit teaching. And explicit teaching is when students are often negotiating new language as well as different classroom expectation. So being explicit about what students need to do and how to do it helps students complete tasks independently, and that's what we want. Explicitly linked lesson activities to learning goals help students understand the relevance of what they are doing. So this is an example of starting with the end in mind, backward design. What do I want my students to do independently by themselves by the end of my lesson? And if I have that big picture, then everything else will fall in place. What I want them to do in guided practice, what I want them to do in whole group. and etc. So this is just an example of an idea, a suggestion of a way to make learning stick, starting from the end in mind, starting backwards, what I really want them to do and apply independently by themselves. The next one is work examples, number 4. And so work examples are explicitly set out to achieve a step, a given task, or solving a problem. Working through these steps with students and giving them time to practice helps you, the teacher, identify areas of confusion or misunderstanding. Adding annotations when you're doing it on the Elmo or when you're in small group and you're working through this example can also support understanding in highly new terminology. So in here, if I was a reading specialist or teaching guided reading, I could videotape a small group. And these videos are not very long. I can do maybe 30 seconds or just something to teach that skill. If I'm doing a lesson on the Elmo, I'm doing a multiplication, I can insert, my annotations on how do I solve that problem. In math, this is another, if I'm doing guided math and I'm at my math table and I see someone doing an excellent job on how they solved it or where they got to, I can videotape it real quick and then I can upload it to these things. And what the idea was for this guided reading one and this math one is that I'm uploading these short videos and I'm not recording the student, I'm just recording, their hands and what they're doing. I can upload them. So then if I'm a student at home and I'm like, Mr. Beretta taught this and I just forgot, I can go into Schoology and these are published. I can go and click on it and I can see the video of exactly how he solved this math problem or how this student used a reading strategy or how they used sound boxes correctly. So all of these are things that we can show students because they really need an example to help them be successful during independent time. The next one is collaborative learning. So collaborative learning builds interpersonal and communication skills and fosters new relationship with peers. So this really works with social and emotional learning. So when students are working collaboratively, it allows you, the teacher, the time to provide additional support and observe areas of strength in individuals or in groups. So collaborative learning tasks allow a teacher to plan groups in ways that maximize learning and provides a safe learning environment. So these are just some examples. There's the examples that I'm sharing, they're endless. There's so many things that are out there and so many things that you're doing now in your classroom. But this is just to illustrate what exactly they mean by collaborative learning. So if I was just reading a book to my students and they can work collaboratively in groups, we're doing a summary, somebody wanted, but so then they can do it in a Jamboard and they could write some notes down and put them where they needed to go. If I was doing science, all about frogs, they're going to work together in a group and they're going to figure out what do frogs need, what they have, and what they are. And it's just a way for kids, and I always felt in the classroom that the kids learn better than me. And so I always felt like, when they learn together and their other peers are explaining it, they get it for some reason. And I love that. So this is just a great way for collaborative learning. And these are not all of the ideas. I'm sure you have other ideas as well, but these are just 2 ways to demonstrate what they mean about collaborative learning. Multiple exposure. So this one really doesn't have any resources that you'll get, but there's just some photos that I put in here just to get to a better understanding of what they mean by multiple exposure. So in each content area will involve learning new language, learning new skills, sometimes new ways of working in the classroom. So students need the opportunity to develop these competencies and feel comfortable learning in different ways and different contexts. So basically, when I was in kinder where, letters are so important, letters and sounds. And so in here for multiple exposure, they're being exposed to different ways. So we're doing it on the anchor chart, we're matching it. So they're on the carpet, everyone had their own sound card. I think they only had a picture and then they had to come up and match it with the letter. And then over here, they're doing it in their name during guided reading, maybe in a center, they're building that letter. And then we're finding it in books. And then they're going to go home and find something in their toy box, or they're going to find something at home that matches that letter and sound, and then bring it in. So I snap a picture, and that is our alphabet chart. So these are just ways to show you what they mean by multiple exposure. So whenever I teach something in math, they're going to see it in whole group, they're going to see it in guided math groups, they're going to see it in center. So multiple exposures of the same context, but in different content and having those opportunities. Questioning. So questioning is the next high impact strategy. And questioning is students sometimes are unfamiliar with the use of questioning as a classroom strategy, but the right kind of questions can help you as a teacher get to know your students. So this kind of ties into setting goals when I'm doing the entrance survey. So you'll see that a lot of these are connecting to one another, and we get to know their strengths, their interests, and experiences. So questioning is also an important way to engaging students, because I'm relating it to something that they know in their interest, scaffolding their learning, and giving the opportunities to use language in meaningful ways. So here, when I taught the lower grades, I always did picture of the day. And so it really worked with inferencing. And even though, when I taught fourth grade, that was just a struggle of making inferences or inferring. And so it's so highly important that we do it even in the lower grades. So I would just put a picture up there and we really get to know, who's in the picture, what are they doing, what is happening, and getting their minds and their thinking about what is happening. Because eventually when they get older, when they're reading, there's not a lot of pictures in these books. So they really have to use that skill of inferring. And then you might have seen this on campus if somebody that's a writing AST, not a science AST or a science facilitator at your campus. So the last science meeting they had when we met before we shared this out, they had the idea about would you rather questions. And I thought, what about I designed something so teachers can take with them. And the idea around would you rather is I'm teaching a unit, say, 4 regions of Texas, or I'm teaching a unit in science or something in social studies. And I'm not going to tell the students what our unit is. I want to know their prior knowledge, or what do they know about it that would help me drive the instruction moving on. So I could put, would you rather, explore space or explore the ocean? And then ocean is what my unit is, or any questions that pertain to that unit, just to get an idea of where your kids are at and what their knowledge is, background knowledge. This one is just question of the day. This can work like attendance too, if you needed to. If you're just going to put a question. And so each student, I remember in the upper grades, I would give everyone a number. And so on the Jamboard, they would just put it on there with their name. And so that's just a quick way for me to take attendance. But also if there's any question from yesterday that they just didn't get, kind of gives me a way of assessing how the lesson went or what things I need to change. Over here is more of the lower grades, as the concurrent teaching, I miss having everybody on the carpet, but this is just a way for them I can present a question and they just find a spot. They answer it on their Jamboard, on their sticky, and then they find somewhere to sit. Or we could do like sharing, everyone's name is on the carpet, and so I can pick and choose instead of going through my gallery and Zoom and trying to find them. It's just a quick way. And kids will love moving where they want to sit, and just as they imagine they would have done in the classroom. The next one is feedback. So feedback is, and so these next ones, it's going to be feedback, metacognitive strategy, and differentiated teaching. It's all going to be combined in one. So the first part of it is giving regular feedback to students and provides opportunities for students to seek feedback, really builds that strong partnership between you and the students. Regular feedback that explicitly identifies a student's strength and areas that need improvement helps students understand what is expected and what they're aiming for. And so when we move into differentiated teaching, it allows you, the teacher, to vary learning goals, teaching and assessment strategies, and pace of learning for each student. And it allows you to maintain high challenges for each of our students that provide high level of support in the classroom. So this one, I really like the part where, I really like how we can write notes for students, we can give that feedback and they can keep that sticky note somewhere. But then I also thought, I could bring it up another notch and do a personal video for them. And so I can record myself, Gilbert, I really like how you did this in guided reading, or during guided math, you're making so much improvement. And this video is like 30 seconds or a minute, no more than a minute. And so you're just having that feedback and that video they can keep in their drive for so long until they're here in our side. But that is also another personal way of writing that, either a personal video or some sort of note to provide student feedback. And then this is just after self-reflection. I did a lot this I think we do a lot of this as teachers is after we're reflecting on, our lesson or our year or our week, like what are some glows that are happening and what are some grows? And I think that that has to also tie down to our students as well as individuals. Like what is something that, me, Gilbert, what are some things that I have mastered and that I'm very proud of? And then what are some things that I need to work on? And that's as a person that really helps you and that feedback on what do I need to do to move on forward, and which kind of connects to number one, which was setting goals, where I want to see myself in the end. And then I mentioned this again, you'll see this, and the feedback is also connects to feedback because in the classroom, I can really see, I can give feedback, you're a master, you're an expert in this. So tomorrow, I really want you to work with these students and I want you to explain this part or this lesson. Because as we know, students are kind of, they're so powerful that whatever they're explaining to someone really helps them understand.
So this next part is called exploration time, and you will have 2 tasks that you will have to complete in 25 minutes. So the first task is called collaboration time. In collaboration time, in your resources, you will have a Google Jamboard labeled collaboration time. And what I want you to do is I want you to use the sticky notes, and I want you to jot down any ideas from the greatest hits you currently or have implemented in your classroom that has been a success for student learning. So in this Jamboard, there's 9 frames, and these 9 frames has the subjects, reading, writing, math, science, social studies, but we also have some for our discovery specialists like PE, music, art, STEM are also in there as well. So you're basically going to use the sticky note, which is over here. And over here, you're going to jot some things down that you currently do in reading that is considered a greatest hits. So I can say setting goals. And what I do in reading is I have students set goals, and they are either setting goals based on, things that they want to get better at, if it's fluency, if it's moving to the next reading level, if it's using decoding strategies, etc. So this is the Jamboard that I would love for you to jot things down that you are currently doing or have done in your classroom that now you realize it's a greatest hits. Because building this session, I really had some time to reflect. And a lot of these things I did in the classroom, and I just didn't realize that it was labeled something and it was considered a high impact teaching strategy. The second task is called the Greatest Hits Auditorium. In your resources, you will get a link to the Greatest Hits Auditorium. And so when you click on the tickets, you're going to get to the auditorium. And each of these seat sections is based upon the greatest hits. So you've just scored some awesome tickets to your favorite band. As you're searching for your seat, click on the seat section to learn all about the greatest hits. You're going to want to read the informational article in folder number 1. So if you click on the seat section, you notice number 1 says what and why. So in here, you're going to read the article, and they're not very long, but it's going to tell you the what it is and why. Then in folder number 2 is going to be the how. Here are some activities or examples rather of that high impact teaching strategy. And a lot of them I mentioned in the video, and some of them I didn't. And the nice part is that you can make a copy of any of these and save them in your drive as well. And also, all of these can be printed as well. So while you're exploring the auditorium and the different seat sections, you will also have in your resources a concert handout that is a Jamboard. And this Jamboard is labeled concert handout. And so while you're exploring each of the 10 high impact teaching strategies, the greatest hits, you can use the sticky note feature to jot some things down on this handout for note taking. It is also linked in your resources as a PDF. So if you want to print it, you're able to do that as well. So for task number 2, which is the greatest hits auditorium and you exploring each of the seat sections, you have 2 choices. You can, if you choose choice 1, I would like for you to record 1 or 2 tips or ideas you want to remember and to share with your other colleagues. Or you can choose choice 2 and record 1 or 2 tips or ideas you may want to implement this upcoming school year. In this exploration time, you will have 25 minutes, so you may pause the video for 25 minutes to complete these 2 tasks.
All right, since we have a small group, for the bigger group, we're just going to pick some names. But if you would like to unmute and share some of your thoughts with us, we'll take some time for you to just share out some of the things that you put on the collaboration time with the Jamboard, and then the greatest hits, the concert one, and anything that you want to share that kind of sparked something that you're currently doing in the classroom that now you know that it's attached to this greatest hits, this high impact teaching strategy. So if anyone wants to share, you can go ahead and unmute.
I'll start if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
One of the things, I'm a reading specialist, and sometimes the kids are so inundated with reading already that they come to a small group and they're either really excited or they're kind of bummed that they're missing out on whatever they're doing in class. So I brought in the Code and Go little mouse robot. And regardless of what skill we're teaching, we can program it. And so they're working together on some collaborative learning pieces, because not only do they have to know the answer and work together to figure that out, but then they have to work together kind of on that STEM level. So it's got the critical thinking piece to go along with it. And that excites them a little bit more when they have to leave their friends in the classroom to come see me.
Thank you for sharing. I like that. Anybody else want to share their thinking, their thoughts over what they did during your exploration time?
I'll go.
Okay.
For the science, I teach, I'm a GT specialist. And so this year our big focus is on biomes. And we've been using the Texas Wildlife Association for a lot of the things that we're learning with water and animals, ecosystems, habitats. And they have a number of live Zoom virtual presentations that they give, and they're free. And so going back to collaborative learning, and even just hearing it a different way, when you expose the kids to the same material, but just somebody else says it, and it's said in a different way and it's presented in a different way, I find that very helpful for the kids. And so it's just another activity out there for anyone looking for something different, and just bringing somebody outside the school. And they offer so much, so many different resources, things that you can order through them, things, they even have webinars that are pre-recorded, so that let's say you're teaching, for third grade teachers, let's say, freshwater ecosystems, they have pre-recorded webinars for the students. So even if you can't book a live presentation at this point in the year, because maybe they're booked at this, for the remainder of the year, they do have the pre-recorded ones that you can watch anytime with your students. So it's been a really good source for me.
Perfect. Feel free to put it in the chat. I think everyone else would like to learn more about that. I like that idea. Anybody else want to share their thinking? Anything you're currently doing in your classroom that is working, that is successful for students? All right, we're going to move into questions. So we'll take some time for any questions that you saw on this session today, any questions that you found in the folders you had questions about, anything about the article. Feel free to unmute and let us know any questions you might have still.
So this might be more of just a management kind of question. So I love how you had the how and the why for each one of the 10, because that's important for, teachers and students to understand why they're doing it and why it's effective. And I absolutely love your different templates. Where do you find those engaging ones, or like what's the process behind that? So if we're trying to create something, we're not spinning our wheels. Are you finding pre-made ones, or are you creating them from scratch?
All of the ones that are in the folder I created by scratch. So if you want to work one-on-one with me, I'll be happy to work with any one of you one-on-one and going through the process of how I did it. So let's go to number 2. So for this one, the trick behind it is that in Google, there's not a lot of, I'm a font person, so I like the fonts that I have on my personal computer or things that I download. And so Google only gives you only an option to it. So the trick is that I created in PowerPoint on my personal computer and any fonts that I want to use, and then I save it as a picture. And then in Jamboard, which is nice, this new feature is that you can add an image. So whatever that picture that I downloaded in PowerPoint, I put it into Google, the Jamboard. And so I add it as the background. So then the students can't touch anything, edit anything. All they can use is the sticky notes. So that's kind of the trick behind it. But if you want to work one-on-one, especially if you have like bilingual teachers, we can work together one-on-one and create something together. I'll be happy to work with you on that. The same thing goes for, like for this one, for PowerPoint is exactly the same thing. I do it in, with this one in particular, I just did it in PowerPoint just to get the squares, but everything else around it, I used this website. I guess let's see, I can put it in the, oh, she doesn't have access, hold on. I'll put this one in the chat. This is just another way, even though that we love our fonts on our personal computer and sometimes we don't like the ones in Google, this one can also change the way that it looks. And this was just called coolsymbol.com. And so if you type in there in their search bar, whatever text you want to put, so I just put Monday, March 29th, and then it gave me this font that's not in Google. And then I use Jiffies to put the little sparkle in the background. So that's a little hack around that part of it. For a Jiffy, I shared it. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I did share how to do it an easier way. So basically what I did was I just typed in sparkle. And instead of downloading or getting the symbols, all I did was, and this is an easy trick, you just click on it and then you click and you hold it and you drag it to your, which one is it? You click and then you drop it. So you don't have to do any downloading or going to insert picture and doing the URL, it's already there for you. So that is how I did the sparkles behind it. And then basically, so I get the sparkles behind the text, I just went to arrange and change the order of it. So that's the trick behind that part. So if you're not following me, you're missing out on some tricks. So that's in there as well. Any other questions? Let me see if
I just wanted to say I'm from Valley High, and I get your Tech Tuesdays every week, and it has been so helpful to see what's happening throughout the district and all the information that you give. I take those things and I use it It's easy to implement really quick. The kids like it, and it just helps to keep them engaged. So I want to tell you, thank you, sending out the information. Today was nice. I really liked the part where you gave us the information, but gave us time to process and think and play with it, because that helped me out a lot, because I need time to figure it out, how I'm going to use it. But your Tech Tuesdays have been very beneficial for me this year. Me and the team there at Valley High, we so appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Vanessa, and thank you for joining us too. It's good to see you actually in video too, since we're not on the campus. Any other questions about any of the resources? That was kind of the trick behind it, Sandra, is I do it in PowerPoint and then I just upload the image to the Jamboard. You can create it in Jamboard. The run around with that is that you have to put a text box so the students can't touch anything that's on it. But I just feel like the fastest way is just making it into a JPEG and then uploading it into the document, just so they won't touch anything or move anything. Any other questions about any of the resources? We'll be happy, any of the tech coaches will be happy to work with you one-on-one. So don't forget to reach out to them as well. All right, so the resources that are in those folders, all you have to do is simply just file and make a copy. Those are all yours. If there's anything that you're doing in your classroom or at your school that is working and is successful and it's attached to these greatest hits, because we know that these greatest hits have the highest impact for student learning, I would love for you to share it with me, and so I could put it in the folder, because all of you will have access to the folder in the follow-up email, but we can also put it in the chat here as well. Let me go back. So in the chat here's going to be the folder of all the resources. It would also be in the follow-up email later on this week. And then if you want to share anything, please feel free to email me and we'll put that in there as well, because we would love to share the wealth of all of your great ideas and all the ideas that were shared today. Any other questions so far? Everyone's good?
As the session is coming to a close, I really want you to know that anything that was presented today in this session and anything that you want to implement, please reach out to your academic tech coaches. If it's myself or any of the other awesome tech coaches, we'll be happy to assist you in implementation in any of these activities that was presented today. So please reach out to us. You can also find us on Facebook as well, so be sure to follow us not only on Twitter, but also on Facebook. We also have a academic tech Google site that you could view as well. And in here, you can meet all of the other coaches that we have on our team, as well as professional learning opportunities that we have had in the past, from Summer Summit 2020 to the Winter Summit 2021 and the Spring Summit 2021. And within these are videos of our sessions and any of the resources that were in the video that were presented there as well. So these are all of the awesome resources that you could also view on your spare time. So that concludes this session on teaching the greatest hits with Google Workspace. So please, I would love to hear your feedback in the evaluation, and also complete your quiz to get credit for this course. And again, this course is Teaching the Greatest Hits with Google Workspace. And if you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other academic tech coaches, and we'll assist you in implementation. Thank you for joining me.